and I live my life based on passion. This afternoon, what I'd like to share with you is some information about my passions and how they have enriched my life beyond belief. So let's get started. Of course, my first passion is Toastmasters. Since March 25th, 1984, I've been doing my thing. It's been a wonderful program for me. But if you knew me when I was a very young person, you could realize that that was part of my future. This is at my great Aunt Helen's ranch in Upper Washington State. I'm not sure why I'm on the box, but it sure did. But I became my first real passion, baseball. It just caught on with me. There was something magic about the game, and I loved it. And I loved it so much that I became a fan of my hometown team. This is the 1959 Fresno Giants. Notice all of the signatures. I got autographs from every one of them. There's one other thing about this that you might notice, and that is as we wait, that person right there. You notice he's wearing a different uniform, and that's because he was the visiting club bat boy for the 1959 Fresno Giants. His name was Dan Murray. And so I got to live my passion big time. I saw things you wouldn't believe. I saw people that later on became gigantic baseball stars, and it was so much fun to have that as part of my life. And it continues to be part of my life. Go A's. Now, let's move on. You can't read this,
No.
and you weren't expected to read it. What it is something I offer as evidence. It has 38 entries. These 38 entries represent the 38 vehicles I have owned in my life. I am a big-time car freak. It's one of those things where you might get better, but you never get well. So, what I have for you are some pictures of the many vehicles that I have owned over my years, being someone who just loves vehicles. I have had all kinds of things. I've had a wonderful Pontiac Trans Am when nobody knew what they were except a few of us. I've had a number of Volkswagens. I've had a number of Hondas. I've had a wonderful couple of Toyotas, a nice VW. And finally, we come to the best car I've ever owned. This is a 1987 Porsche 911 Carrera.
All right, yes.
Beautiful car. Beautiful car. What was interesting about this car was that if I drove it anywhere near its limits, I was risking a night in jail. So, I didn't do that. And after 4 years of ownership, I realized this amazing vehicle wasn't ever going to be used anywhere near its limits. So, sadly, I decided to sell it. And I realized that I was glad for having had the experience, but it was a little like a sailboat. The happiest day is the day you buy it. The next happiest day is the day you sell it. Now, let's move on to my favorite vehicle. This is a 1987 BMW 325 IS. Looking good, except if you'll notice the front wheel hub is missing. I couldn't believe how crazy that made me when I realized it was in the picture. This vehicle was purchased on December 12, 1987 for Distinguished Toastmaster by Distinguished Toastmaster Dick Ellis. He owned it until April 5th, 2005 when he sold it to me. And it was so funny because he called me some months before and said, I'm going to buy a new car. What should I buy? We talked about the differences, things about different cars. He made a decision about the new car. When I went to see it, I said, what are you going to do with the old one? He said, well, I don't know, I guess I'll sell it. And I said, well, what's the story? He said, well, it needs a steering rack, and it's got a bad bearing, and there's some other things that are done. As you can see, the paint is going bad on it a little bit, but I'm going to sell it. So me being a man who believes in risk, I said, I'll give you $2,000 for it. He said, sold. That was many thousands ago. What I did, and what you see here is the fact that this was what it looked like when I finished my first complete refurbishment of the vehicle. And I was proud of it. I was proud of it until I got rear-ended on the 405 one afternoon. That set off my second refurbishment of the vehicle, and this is what it looks like today. And I still love it. I maintain it perfectly. It has 217,000 miles on it. It really is my daily driver. Except in hot weather, I drive on hot days because I don't like hot weather. And it's been wonderful that I've had this car and been able to share it with Dick and Carolyn. And they've been able to see what I've done for it, done to it. One time at a Toastmaster event, Dick and Carolyn came rolling up in their van, and Carolyn said out the window, "That's a great looking BMW. Where'd you get it?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? I found the biggest sucker on the planet." Enough about cars, let's move on. I also have a passion for something I find a little unique, and that is locomotives. I don't know why. Maybe it's because when I was a young child, I traveled a lot on some of the best trains in America. And it fueled a passion for me. This is what is called an Alco PA. It's a very rare diesel locomotive that powers the Napa Valley wine train. And of course, I've been on that. And this was one part of sharing my passion, but now the biggest part. This is Southern Pacific number 4449. When I was growing up in Fresno, California, this very engine would come through town pulling the San Joaquin Daylight. And I noticed it because I thought it was stunning. And what was interesting is, it was retired in 1957 from service in Bakersfield, California, towed to Portland, Oregon, put on display in Oaks Park in Portland. In the early 70s, somebody said, we ought to refurbish that thing and let it power the American Freedom Train. And they did. And since 1976, every couple of years, this locomotive goes on a big excursion. And myself and 3 fans have followed this everywhere. So, that's part of it. And here's what it looks like when this is wartime livery. This is what it looked like when I took a picture in Bremerton, Washington, and I lucked out. It's my favorite photos, and it's part of my another passion, which is photography. I love photography. I'm not very good, but I do okay. Here's a picture of downtown Los Angeles I took, and I just caught everything right. Here's a picture of Morro Rock. Now, along the way, I've become someone who likes nature photography. I have a friend, Bob Massey, who up at Lake Casitas got a picture of an eagle and 2 eagle chicks. He waited 3 hours to get that picture, but it was beautiful. I heard about a place where you could capture a picture of a falcon in a tree. And so I put everything together, trumped off, found the place, waited for the longest time to see the falcon, and finally it arrived, and here it is.
Oh my.
So ladies and gentlemen, there's one more passion I'd like to share with you, and that is this one. This is Mary Catherine Sullivan. I was lucky enough to share my life with her for 25